The great halls of the Galactic Academy of Sciences were alive with sound that morning. Young cadets of many different species filled the training chamber, their voices echoing in a dozen tones, some deep and growling, others high and musical. For the alien students, this day was important. It was not about theory or numbers on a screen. Today was about survival. The lesson was called Endurance Under Stress. Every cadet was expected to show how their species reacted to wounds and pain. The exercise was supervised by Instructor Valen, a tall reptilian figure with a shimmering blue crest. He stood at the front of the hall with a long training staff in his clawed hands. His yellow eyes moved across the rows of students, checking their readiness. Among them stood one figure who looked very different from the others, Daniel Ross, a human cadet. His uniform was the same as the others, but his body was not scaled, feathered, or furred like theirs. Smooth skin, brown hair, and calm gray eyes made him stand out. Even though he was used to the stares by now, he could still feel them on him. The alien students whispered quietly among themselves. "Look at him," said a young frail. "A thin creature with 4 eyes and translucent skin. Humans are from a death world. They say their bodies are unpredictable." A K3 cadet whose body was covered in short spines shivered. "Unpredictable? More like dangerous. My uncle told me humans can keep walking even when their bodies should fall." Daniel heard the whispers, but he did not react. He had learned long ago that silence was often the best answer. Instead, he stood still, arms crossed, waiting for the exercise to begin. The first demonstration's instructor, Valen, raised his staff. "Today," he announced, his voice echoing, "you will each face a controlled injury. Nothing fatal, nothing permanent, but you will feel discomfort. We will study your responses." The first to step forward was a frail student. Valen pressed the training staff against the frail's thin arm, leaving a shallow cut. The frail gasped, his entire body trembling. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he swayed, nearly falling. Medical drones rushed forward to stabilize him. The crowd of cadets nodded. This was expected. Frail biology made them extremely sensitive to pain. Next came a Cathari. When the staff left a mark across his spiny arm, the Cathari screamed and collapsed. His body stiffened as his nervous system overloaded. He had to be carried away by drones, too, the aliens muttered among themselves. Each species had weaknesses. Pain was not just a nuisance. It was a threat to survival. The humans turned finally. Instructor Valen turned his eyes toward Daniel. "Human cadet, step forward." Daniel walked calmly to the center of the hall. The alien students leaned forward, eager to see what would happen. Some whispered predictions. "He will faint like the frail." Others said, "No, he will rage." "Humans are violent." Valen lowered the staff slowly, making sure the human could see. "Do you consent to the demonstration?" Daniel nodded. "Of course." With a swift motion, the staff scraped against his forearm. A thin line of red appeared. The wound was shallow, but blood was clearly visible. Gasps erupted from the alien students. To many of them, the sight of blood meant death. Several covered their eyes. A few stepped back, frightened, but Daniel did not scream. He did not faint. He looked at the wound, then at the instructor, his face calm. His only words were, "Just hand over a bandage." The shock, the hall went silent. Dozens of alien eyes stared at him in disbelief. "Did he just ask for a bandage?" whispered one frail, his voice shaking. "Impossible," hissed a Cathari. "No one stays that calm with blood on their skin." But Daniel stood relaxed, as if nothing serious had happened. He pressed a hand lightly against the wound, waiting. Instructor Valen tilted his head, impressed. Slowly, he handed the human a small medical strip. Daniel wrapped it around his arm with steady hands. Then he stepped back into line as if nothing unusual had happened. The alien cadets began whispering louder, their confusion growing. "He acts like it is nothing," one muttered. "Doesn't he feel pain?" another asked. "Or maybe humans don't fear it at all," someone else added. For the rest of the lesson, their eyes kept drifting toward Daniel. Every other cadet reacted with cries, trembling, or weakness when touched by the staff. But the human's calm request for a bandage overshadowed all of them. Quiet questions. After the demonstration, the students filed out of the chamber into the academy's common hall. The walls glowed with soft light, and benches of different shapes were arranged for the many species. Yet the conversations all circled around one subject, the human. Daniel sat alone at one table, cleaning the last of the red from his arm. His movements were casual, practiced. To him it was nothing more than a scratch. A group of alien students gathered nearby, unable to stay quiet. "He didn't even flinch," said the frail, his 4 eyes blinking nervously. "Even with blood." "It is unnatural," said the Ketheri. "Pain should bring panic. That is how we survive," or perhaps, a quieter voice suggested, "that is how they survive." They turned their eyes back to the human. Daniel did not notice their stares. He simply pulled his sleeve down and leaned back as if the whole event had been boring. The whisper of legends, by evening, rumors had spread through the academy. Older students repeated ancient warnings. "Our elders always said humans were different," one whispered. "They heal fast. They ignore wounds. That is why they are dangerous." Some laughed nervously, but no one dismissed the story. The image of Daniel calmly asking for a bandage was too fresh in their minds. As night fell across the academy, the alien students could not sleep easily. They replayed the scene in their minds: the cut, the blood, the calm voice. They had witnessed something that challenged everything they thought they knew about survival. And for Daniel Ross, it was just another day. The morning after the survival lesson, the Galactic Academy's common hall was full of hushed voices. The wide chamber, built to welcome every kind of species, was buzzing with one subject alone: the human cadet. Tables shaped for different body types were scattered across the glowing room. Frail students rested on padded seats designed for their fragile frames. Cathari sat stiffly on spike-resistant benches, and other species floated, crouched, or perched in their own ways. No matter the posture, their eyes kept sliding toward one figure sitting calmly at the far end: Daniel Ross. He was eating his breakfast as though nothing unusual had happened the day before. A simple plate of food rested before him. He cut his meal into small pieces and chewed thoughtfully, unaware or perhaps uncaring of the constant stares. The first questions. Finally, a bold, frail cadet with 4 blinking eyes approached him. His name was Raylan, and his voice trembled even when he tried to sound firm. "Human cadet," Raylan said. "Yesterday, when you bled, why did you not scream? Why did you not faint?" Daniel looked up from his plate. His gray eyes were calm, steady. "It was only a scratch. Nothing serious." The answer made the frail flinch. "Only a scratch?" He repeated the words as though they were heavy stones. "For us, even small cuts are dangerous. Our bodies cannot stand it," Daniel shrugged. "Where I come from, we scrape our knees as kids. We fall from bikes. We cut ourselves while cooking. It's normal. We learn early to handle it. You clean the wound, cover it, and move on." Raylan blinked, all 4 eyes rapidly, shocked. He had never heard of children facing wounds so casually. Other students leaned closer, their curiosity growing. The gathering crowd soon. A small circle formed around Daniel's table. A Cathari cadet named Jevak, his body bristling with short spines, leaned forward. "You cannot mean this is common," Jevak said. "You make it sound like pain is routine." Daniel cut another bite of food and nodded. "It is. Our world has sharp rocks, animals with teeth, storms that throw us down. You don't escape pain, you learn to keep going." The aliens exchanged uneasy looks. For them, pain was not a teacher. It was a warning, a line never crossed. A bird-like Chirav student flapped her wings nervously. "But if you were more badly hurt, say a deep wound, what then? Would you still just continue?" Daniel looked thoughtful. His voice remained steady. "If it's serious, we deal with it until we're safe. Then we patch ourselves up. We don't stop in the middle of danger. That's how you survive." The crowd fell into silence. His words were simple, but they struck something deep in the minds of the alien cadets. Rumors and arguments by afternoon. The whispers had grown into heated debates across the academy. In the study hall, 2 groups of students clashed with words. "He is hiding something," said a Cathari. "No one can ignore pain like that. He must have implants, or hidden medicine." A frail disagreed, his thin body shaking as he argued. "No, you saw his arm. No machines. No implants. He bled like us, yet he stayed calm. It is natural for his kind." Others joined in, each adding fuel to the debate. If their children are cut and they laugh about it, then humans must be broken. Or maybe they are stronger than we ever imagined. No, it cannot be strength, it is madness. The arguments grew so loud that instructors had to intervene more than once, reminding the cadets that the academy was a place of learning, not chaos. Daniel's explanation that evening. The alien students returned to the common hall. This time Daniel did not sit alone. Raylan, Jevak, and the Cherev student named Lyra asked to sit with him. Daniel agreed with a polite nod, though he could sense their curiosity pressing like a heavy weight. Lyra tilted her feathered head. "Tell us honestly, how do you stay calm when blood comes? For us it is terror. For you it seemed nothing." Daniel leaned back, folding his arms. "It's not that we don't feel it. Pain hurts. It always does. But we learn to live with it. My grandfather used to say, pain means you're alive. If you can feel it, you can keep moving." The alien stared wide-eyed. To them, pain was only a signal of weakness. But to humans, it seemed to be something else. A test, maybe even a guide. Instructor Valen's clarification. Their conversation was interrupted when Instructor Valen himself entered the hall. The tall reptilian paused, then approached their table. "I see you are discussing yesterday's lesson," Valen said, his deep voice rumbling. "Perhaps I can offer clarity." The cadets straightened quickly, respectful. Valen's yellow eyes focused on the group. "Humans are indeed unusual. Their bodies heal faster than most. Their immune systems resist many infections, and most of all, their minds adapt. They are not fearless, they simply refuse to be controlled by fear." Jevak tilted his head, confused. "Refuse, as if it is a choice?" The instructor nodded. "In many cases, yes. They feel pain as you do. But instead of letting it rule them, they push forward. That is why their kind is both admired and feared." The alien cadets shivered at the thought. A test of words still doubtful, Jevak leaned forward. "If you were burned or if your limb was broken, what then?" "Surely even you would fall." Daniel gave a half smile. "I wouldn't like it. But I'd do my best to get myself or others out of danger first. Then I'd worry about fixing the damage. Humans don't quit just because it hurts." The room went quiet. The aliens could not answer. His words were simple, almost casual, yet they carried a weight that made their chests feel heavy. Raylan whispered, "This is why the elders warn us. This is why humans are different." Uneasy respect, the debate ended not with victory but with silence. Each alien student looked at Daniel with new eyes. He was no longer just a fellow cadet. He was a living example of something they had only heard in stories. Endurance beyond reason. As the group broke apart for the night, whispers carried down the academy corridors. They don't stop. They don't fall. They move forward, even when wounded. And in the quiet corner where Daniel finished his meal, he barely noticed the awe he had left behind. To him, it had been a simple truth. The following week, the Galactic Academy of Sciences buzzed louder than usual. Stories about the human cadet had spread far beyond his class. Cadets from other departments whispered in corridors. Senior students passed along versions of the tale that grew larger with each telling. Some said the human had laughed while bleeding. Others claimed he had ignored a serious injury without a sound. The details changed with each retelling, but one fact remained. Daniel Ross had stayed calm when everyone else expected him to panic. To the alien students, that calmness was more terrifying than shouting. The Hall of Gathering. The Academy soon arranged a lecture in the Hall of Gathering. It was a massive chamber built to hold hundreds of species at once, with glowing light panels and shifting seats that adjusted to every body type. The cadets filled the space, chattering nervously. They all knew the subject of the day: human resilience. At the front stood Instructor Valen, his tall reptilian frame glowing faintly under the lights. His crest shimmered blue as he raised his hand for silence. "Cadets," he said, his deep voice carrying through the chamber, "you have all heard the story. Now you will understand why it matters." His yellow eyes scanned the crowd before resting briefly on Daniel, who sat among his classmates. Daniel looked uncomfortable with the attention, but he remained quiet. "The instructor speaks humans," Valen began, "are a paradox in this galaxy. Their homeworld is harsh, a world they call Earth. Their storms tear down cities. Their creatures bite and claw. Even their own environment tests them every day. And yet they thrive." He gestured toward Daniel. "This cadet showed you something simple. He was wounded and he asked only for a bandage. Many of you saw this as unnatural. To him it was ordinary." The aliens shifted uneasily in their seats. For most, the memory of that moment was still fresh. The thin line of red across human skin, the calm voice, the steady hands. Valen continued, his tone slow and deliberate. Pain to them is not the end. It is information, a signal. They feel it, yes, but they are trained from youth not to be ruled by it. This is why they are feared in war and valued in peace. The students react. A murmur swept through the hall. A frail cadet raised his thin arm nervously. Instructor, if humans can endure so much, does that mean they cannot be stopped? Valen shook his head. Of course they can be stopped. They are not invincible. But what sets them apart is their refusal to stop themselves. They push through wounds, they fight while bleeding, they build while broken, and sometimes that is enough to turn defeat into victory. The alien cadets looked at one another. Their spines, feathers, or scales shivered with unease. Daniel's words. For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. He sat quietly, letting the lecture move forward. But then Valen turned toward him. Human cadet, the instructor said, will you speak for yourself? Tell them what it means to be human. All eyes fixed on him. Daniel hesitated, then slowly stood. His uniform looked plain, his face ordinary, but the silence around him made him feel larger than life. I don't know about being special, he began, his voice steady. I just know what we're taught. Pain is real, it hurts, but you don't give up just because it hurts. He looked around the hall, meeting the wide alien eyes. On Earth, children fall and scrape their knees. They cry sometimes, yes, but then they stand and they walk again. Soldiers fight with wounds. Workers labor with sore hands. Parents keep going even when they are tired. That's what it means to be human. You move forward. Even when it hurts. The words hung in the air. Simple yet heavy. A shift in perspective. For many alien cadets, it was the first time they had heard such a philosophy. To them, endurance meant survival in the safest way. Avoid pain, avoid risk. But for humans, endurance was something deeper. Lyra, the bird-like Chirav, whispered to her friends, they use pain as a teacher, not as a warning. No wonder they grow strong. Raylan the Frail blinked his four eyes rapidly. It changes everything I thought I knew. If we had their will. How much further could we go? Even Javak, the spiny Cathari who had doubted Daniel most, stayed silent, his dark eyes filled with thought. The growing respect days passed after the lecture, but the mood in the academy shifted. Cadets who once mocked or feared Daniel now looked at him with quiet respect. Some even tried to copy him. The frail students practiced breathing through discomfort during training. The Chirav tested their wings in harsher winds. Even the Cathari attempted to stay calm during minor wounds, though they often failed. Whenever they struggled, they remembered the human's words, move forward. Even when it hurts, Daniel, however, did not boast. He did not try to be a symbol. He simply continued with his studies, training, and daily routines. Yet, without meaning to, he had become a lesson for the entire academy. Whispers of the future one evening. As Daniel walked across the academy courtyard, he overheard two senior cadets speaking in hushed voices. If humans can do this as students, one said, imagine them as soldiers. The other shivered. No wonder their species has a reputation. They don't stop. Daniel sighed softly to himself. He had never tried to frighten anyone. To him, strength was just necessity, not glory. Still, he understood why the galaxy saw humans the way it did. Closing scene at the end of the semester, the cadets gathered once more in the training chamber. This time no one stared at Daniel with suspicion. Instead, they nodded in silent respect as he joined the line. The instructor gave the order to begin exercises. The aliens braced themselves, nervous but determined to endure better than before. Daniel glanced at his classmates. He could see change in their eyes, not fear, but inspiration. And as he tightened the bandage around his old scar, he thought quietly, if a single scratch could teach them this much, maybe we're not so different after all.